You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves dig deep. They mount the fourth quarter comeback. They beat Toronto in Toronto for the first time since 2004. Yeah, that's right. Double check that. 128-126. That's your final. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves postcast, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which, thanks to you guys, is the _1 sports podcast network. Jack Borman, Wolves expert, NBA expert. Give him a follow on X at GRBorman13. Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. And of course, follow our guy Ben Beacon, host of the Locked On Timberwolves show each and every day as well. Lots to get into, Jack. Game MVP, biggest X factor, plus what we'll be talking about tomorrow. But just off the top, Wolves trying to shake off that kind of, lethargic loss Monday in Memphis. They head to a place where, again, they had not won since 2004, 0-20 in their last 20 games in Toronto. So you're thinking they're due, right? They're due for one. Unfortunately, they come out kind of looking a little bit like the same low energy, lethargic team we saw Monday. They go into the locker room. They're down 13. And then they come out, though, in the third quarter, man. They flipped a switch. I don't know. Looked like they had a chip on their shoulder. Bones Highland, he added a huge spark, 20.7 boards, 3 assists in only 26 minutes. That kind of helped get things going a little bit. DDV was fantastic. We'll touch on him. And then in crunch time, man, who else? Anthony Edwards putting the team on his back those last 3-4 minutes, the way only Ant can do. You wish it wouldn't have had to come down to the end like that, Jack, but nonetheless, really fun to watch them pull out a victory with some late game heroics, was it not?
Yeah, it definitely was. I think, again, this is just a game where you got to give the Timberwolves a lot of credit for simply finding a way to win. And, I'm somebody who's kind of fighting the flu a little bit right now. So I'm in no position to try to talk about, the Timberwolves not having a whole lot of energy out there. But I think that, the Timberwolves look dead to rights for 2 quarters and change. And you got to just give these guys credit, not only for banding together against a really tough Raptors team that's been really good this year and had pretty much all of their important guys in a rhythm, maybe with the exception of RJ Barrett. Toronto has been a really good defensive team this year, not necessarily the most prolific offensive team, but when they're rolling like that, you got to look out. Consider Brandon Ingram. We know what he's done to the Wolves over the years. Quickly made 6 threes. Mamukelashvili was fantastic off the bench for them, kind of in that Naz Reid role for them. And the Wolves just kind of hung together. And I think you kind of deserve extra props if you're the Timberwolves for hanging in there and just riding it out as a team, considering all the extraneous circumstances of a potential Giannis trade or other trades they may be sniffing around at. And you lose a guy like Mike Conley, right? I'm certainly operating under the expectation that Mike Conley will be back with the Timberwolves. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but that's an emotional jolt too, finding that out, yesterday and kind of going through your first game and 3 years without having him. That's important. These guys are all creatures of habit and their routine before every game is the same. And when that gets disrupted, especially with a guy like Mike, who is just talking to every single guy in the locker room, just brings such a positive attitude and energy to everything he does. It's tough. And again, you got to give Naz Reid too a lot of credit for helping the Wolves get there, right? They had that 6-0 run to end the third quarter, had a 10-3 run to start the fourth quarter, with that Bones, Dante, Jaden, Naz, and Rudy lineup that was important. Finally found a lineup that brought a lot of energy and defended at a high level. And that group also pushed the pace really well, and it was a huge reason why the Wolves won on the break 20-17 after the Raptors got off to an 11-2 start on the break. So they really hunkered down and played really well. And then the bench finally came through beyond Naz Reid, right? Bones Highland was phenomenal in his first game with kind of extended run without Mike, had 20 points. He and Naz scored all 37, 14-25 shooting, 8-14 from 3, 15 rebounds, 6 assists, just 2 turnovers. Those guys played about as well as you theoretically could have asked for them to play as a tandem offensively. So a lot of good stuff tonight. And then again, just another reminder that when you've got one of them ones like the Timberwolves do in Anthony Edwards, anything is possible in a fourth quarter. You just got to stay within striking distance. And again, when you've got a guy that can bring it home like Anthony Edwards can, I think it just inspires guys to keep playing harder when you're down 18, 15, 12, just to try to get within striking distance to give your guy a chance.
Well said there. Let's get into the player of the game, hand out our game MVP.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
If my tally's right, 15th 30-plus point game for Anthony Edwards on the road tonight, still second to only SGA. Jack, what more can you say, man? Just another, nice performance in the clutch, right? When his team really needed him the most. How great was that?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, Anthony Edwards is certainly in the driver's seat for clutch player of the year with what he's done. And we've talked extensively about him shooting upwards of 70% in the clutch on this season coming into tonight. And tonight, what does he end up doing in the clutch? Well, his shooting percentage went down, but he was pretty darn efficient. He had 12 points, did not turn the ball over, made all 4 of his shots from 2, was 4 of 6 from the free throw line, had 5 rebounds, which was really important. I think that's something you see too, and really elevates his rebounding in the playoffs and later in games when the moment kind of demands that of him. And then on the defensive end of the floor, he had 3 steals and a block, which was a super athletic block, 4 fast break points, 4 second chance points to help get this one over the finish line for the Timberwolves. And I think my favorite highlight might be my favorite Ant highlight of the year, if I'm being honest. Comes down in transition and just airmails a 3. Just an awful shot. Fans are booing it or cheering, and he's asking, like, come on, egging the fans on to keep booing him. And then realizes, oh, shoot, the Raptors are running off of taking the ball out of the basket or out of bounds. And like they did, and gets back in a position, steals the ball, goes down and lays it in, I believe, to take the lead. So it's just, he's that type of showman. And I think that the man, and that's not even so much the stats, which are incredible. I think so much of it too with Anthony Edwards is the manner in which he does it. And it's just so joyful and makes, I think everybody here super grateful that we've got a guy to be able to watch and follow like Anthony Edwards. And with the way that he was being defended, I mean, the Raptors threw the kitchen sink at him all game. It was boxes and elbows, doubles from the baseline, doubles from the middle of the floor. When he was in the post, did a great job of keeping his defenders off balance and isolation with, deciding to, into spin fades or step backs or getting all the way to the rim. I just think he has such a good, kind of pulse on when to go to whatever item in his bag of tricks that he wants to go to, and just keeps defenses off balance all night long in a way that's really fun. And it feels like half of Ant's 30-point games have come when he scores 0 points in the second quarter, where he'll score 12 points or whatever it is in the first quarter, then kind of let Nas and Bones or whoever and Jaden just kind of rock out in the second quarter, and then just turn it on in the second half in a way that I think has been pretty funny. But again, for Ant to end up with 30 points the way that he started this game, and to control the clutch time on both ends of the floor the way he did, despite having for my money, not the best start to the game in terms of his shot selection and some of his decision making with the ball in his hands as it pertains to shooting over double and triple teams and all that stuff, and maybe not seeking out his teammates enough. But again, I think he's got the ultimate trump card, and he slammed it down on the table in pretty emphatic fashion tonight.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky night-to-night basis to get to watch this guy, aren't we? Plenty more deep dive from this one. Biggest X factor, plus what we'll be talking about tomorrow. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Monarch Money. You ever go check your bank account and go, where'd my money go? Dining out, online shopping, entertainment, so easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Not just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, your spending. It's all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and instead you start building some wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com. You're getting 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. You're getting half off your entire first year. This episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Without a doubt, most fun I have playing daily fantasy. You can win up to 25 times your money this NBA season. And why I love it, so easy to play. All you got to do, you select 2 or more players. You pick more or less on their projected stats. Could be points, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers, you name it, they got it. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Right now, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, Jack, let's get into the biggest X factor from tonight.
It's time to reveal who made the biggest under-the-radar impact with today's X Factor.
For sure, 2, maybe 3 really good options here for you to pick from, but going to make you pick one biggest X factor for the Wolves tonight. Who was it and why?
Yeah, for me, my biggest X factor tonight was Donte DiVincenzo, and I think that he might not be a guy that you first think of. You might think of Bones, you might think of Nas, the way that they helped kickstart a lot of things, but I think Donte DiVincenzo, if there was ever a guy that was just holding the line in a basketball game, it was Donte DiVincenzo tonight. 4 of his 5 threes in this game came while the Timberwolves were, trailing by at least 7 points. And I think that especially in the second half, when he made those 2 threes in near the start of the third quarter, felt like the Wolves were in the process of just totally letting go of the rope, and that he just totally refused to let the Wolves die in that regard. And I think the way that he scores energizes the group in a way that is important. And I think that they want to try to feed him. And he's like Nas in that regard too. When he makes a couple, I think that guys just want to feed him and keep going back to him and playing through him. And I think it like I said, but just pumps his teammates up in a way that it kind of helps them play harder. And I think that's really important. And again, also added 6 rebounds, 5 assists, just 1 turnover against a team that was playing pretty heavy pressure, full court for a decent amount of the night. And I think, again, just with Donte, it's so important, especially at these points of the season when it's hard to just lock in and focus and play because of all the extraneous noise when it comes to potential trades, who might get moved, who might not. It's all very real. And these guys are human beings, and it impacts them in a very real way. And it just is super important to have guys that are able to just block that out and just play super hard and I think just inspire guys to just be present in the moment and do the same. And Donte is one of those guys. And again, the numbers aren't totally jarring looking at his numbers, but he played so important. Played such important minutes, especially the second and the third quarter. And I think you got to give Bones Highland credit in the same regard too, especially in that second quarter, coming out just absolutely firing. And again, I think another one of those guys that his teammates have really been rooting for him to play well and get more opportunity and be able to shine with it. And I think that, I asked Chris Finch last week about, what's the difference between, Bones shooting better when Ant doesn't play versus when Ant does play. And he just said that, Bones might be a guy that just having the ball in his hands more allows him to get in a little bit more of a rhythm, not even dribbling the ball, just touching the ball more often and playing, 23 minutes instead of 14 minutes or something like that. And it certainly could be the case because that guy was just playing with a lot more confidence. And between he and Donte, those 2 guys tonight were 9 of 16 from 3. And that's exactly what you need, guys that are going to play in the slots off of Anthony Edwards. And that's super important. So got to give both of those guys a lot of credit.
I only got one kind of quick hitter, rapid fire. Just want to ask you about Jaden McDaniels. His last 4 games, I feel like he has been absolutely lights out. Almost 70% from 3, I want to say, the last 4 games. 8 for 13, 19 points. I just want more. Only 13 shots. I want more J-Mac right now, Jack. Am I on the right track with that?
You are. And, there'd certainly be a lot of Timberwolves fans that are right there with you and saying that, hopefully we can see this through with Jaden McDaniels, and it's easy to see the upside and why, because when he has the runway to take shots and be aggressive offensively, good things tend to happen. I mean, he's a guy who the more he shoots, the more efficient he generally is. And you look at his last 4 games, especially, he's had at least 19, this is including tonight, he's had at least 19 points in all 4 games. He shot at least 57% or better in all 4 games. And he's 14 of 20 from 3 in that span. And so, and that's, of course, not discounting any of the defense that he's been playing. I thought he played phenomenal defense on Brandon Ingram for the most part tonight. And then even when he wasn't matched up on Brandon Ingram, I thought he did a really good job rotating on the backside of the defense and blocked a couple of shots at the rim in important moments. And again, just continues to be an excellent player in transition on both ends of the floor. And so I think, a huge priority for the Timberwolves is after this trade deadline, Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid need to get more shots and need to be a more important part of what the Timberwolves are doing offensively, because when they are given the opportunity and when they have as many shots as a lot of fans, myself included, want them to be able to have, they're generally very successful. And I think if you want to try to extract the highest possible potential that these guys possess, the usage has to be there on some level. And whether that's, I'm not going to sit here and say how they should, make changes and shuffle the pieces on the chessboard in order to make that happen. There's a lot of other people that are smarter than me that can figure that out. But I think a lot of people in that Timberwolves locker room would tell you that Jaden McDaniels needs more shots and that this team is really successful when he scores, especially scores more than 20. And so it's a fascinating point that we land on coming into, the next, whatever it is, 14, 16 hours here.
This is what you'll be talking about.
For the last 48, 72 hours, Jack, I just feel like I'm in a bizarro episode of Deal or No Deal with all these Giannis rumors, right? We talked about it Monday after the game, all the steam. Conley gets traded yesterday. We're thinking maybe that's the first domino to fall, right? But I don't know. Just get me caught up with the latest, what you're hearing. What's the vibe now that, again, we're less than 24 hours out?
Yeah, what's the vibe is that I think once the game tips off, I think I've just kind of breathed a sigh of relief of all right, I know nothing's going to happen for the next 2.5 hours. Let's just enjoy this basketball game and figure it out. But yeah, an important note on Mike Conley. So Mike Conley got traded for a second time today to the Hornets. The Hornets are going to buy him out. And because he got traded a second time, that enables Mike to re-sign with the Timberwolves immediately on the buyout market. And so that's something that I fully anticipate will happen. And knowing Tim Connolly and how shrewd he and his staff are, I think that was probably something that they knew was plausible before they made that move to Chicago. And, again, I think it'd be, great to be able to have Mike back, if not for anything on the court, just for who he is as a person and his veteran leadership and how much all those guys lean on him, not only as a veteran to impart his wisdom, but also just as a positive energy and a guy that everyone loves being around. And you can't have enough of those guys in an NBA locker room. And so I think with Giannis, as it pertains to Giannis, I would be very surprised at this point, especially if by the time you go to bed tonight, if there's no news about Giannis, I would anticipate that he stays with the Bucks just because of how difficult it would be, especially for the Timberwolves, to try to cobble together 4 or 5 additional teams beyond the Bucks in order to make all this stuff happen. And the important part too is that if the Timberwolves do end up just making a smaller move on the margins, maybe it's Rob Dillingham and a second round pick or something like that, going somewhere, sending a player to Chicago and then getting Ayo Dosunmu or somebody like that. The Wolves would still be able to stay under the first apron. And that's pretty important because it would enable them to sign somebody on the buyout market who has a contract that's larger than the non-taxpayer mid-level of about $14 million right now. You think about a guy like Chris Middleton, who got traded today. I don't know if Kevin Huerter is planning on sticking with the Pistons or not, but it's those types of players that could get bought out that might make sense for the Wolves. But I would be very surprised if the Timberwolves don't make a deal of some caliber, whether that's a trade that just involves Rob Dillingham, a trade that involves Julius Randle, or the Giannis deal in some capacity before the 2 p.m. deadline. So, and again, I think for the Timberwolves, it's important too. They saved $21 million in luxury tax money by doing this Conley thing, and they get him back, and potentially they get him back. So it's just shedding $21 million just by, Conley being a guy that has great relationships, Tim Conley, that is. So, I'm great either way. No matter what happens with Giannis, I fully understand the arguments both ways. I discussed that with Ben Beacon on the Locked On Wolves show that came out this morning, and we'll be back on with him after the deadline passes to break down whatever happens. So it's an exciting time of year. It's a tough time to be sick, but definitely one that I think Timberwolves fans should be excited about regardless. And hopefully we'll be everybody will just be breathing a little bit easier on Friday night when the Timberwolves return home.
I speak for all of us, Jack. You're a warrior, gutting it out for us under the weather. Great stuff per usual. T-Wolves mount the fourth quarter comeback, beat Toronto in Toronto for the first time since 2004, 128-126. That's your final. 32-20 now on the year, 12 games above 500. Much love to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us. Chat was great tonight, per usual. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Go follow Jack at Jared Borman 13. We're back Friday. Back at the Target Center, 6 in a row now at home at the Target Center. Starts with New Orleans Friday night, 7 p.m. tip for that. Appreciate all you guys. We'll talk to you next time. Signing out.